Good morning. Welcome to another episode of the Book of HERBrews, and as always, with me,
Pastor Gregory. Glad to be back.
So glad he's with us.
Yeah.
Last week he gave us a scare. I guess not even last week. It was 2 weeks ago. We talked about our favorite holiday side dish.
Mm-hmm.
I like Brussels sprouts. You like Cheese Whiz and Cheetos.
Basically.
If you don't understand that, you need to go back, rewatch our last episode,
Mm-hmm.
and please comment below of what your favorite side dish is. Today, I sat there and thought about what we would talk about, and kind of what I thought about, and you're going to have to kind of go along with me on this. You're kind of unprepared, you didn't take notes, you weren't ready for this pop quiz, but what was going through your mind as you went? Because I know for me, on the side of a pastor's side, where I got the text message that said, I'm going to the hospital. I think I have COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And right now that's the hot button for everybody. Of I have COVID or so-and-so has COVID. It's a scary moment for anybody right now. We understand that. But for you, what was going through your mind as you first initial reaction of, okay, I am going to go to the hospital. I think I might have COVID.
So it wasn't even that. Like when I first decided to go to the hospital, we didn't necessarily think it was COVID. We thought it was just a flu. Just a really bad flu. I mean, flu season's kind of just starting, so
Right.
we're like, okay, that would make sense. But it's really like when we got there, because I mean, obviously all the rules and mandates and stuff like that. Because it's funny, because I did it home for a little bit because I'm like, I was throwing up.
Right.
So like I had almost kind of forgotten that COVID was a thing. And so I kind of like get there, and I wasn't even thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to wear a mask inside. I'm gonna have to do all these things. And so like I kind of got out of the car and they're like, where's your mask? I'm like, oh yeah.
Listen, you don't want a
COVID's
mask
thing.
on this right now. All that does is filter.
Right?
It's just going to be more strained.
And so then I kind of realized, I'm like, oh shoot, they're gonna test me for COVID 100%.
Yeah.
Because I know vomiting is one of the symptoms.
Yes. I was unaware that vomiting was one of the symptoms.
Really?
I
Okay.
was. So when you messaged me and you're like, yeah, I'm throwing up, and I was like, I even texted you. I said, is throwing up? I was sitting there. I said, is throwing up even I asked you, is throwing up even a symptom? And for some reason, I just blanked on that one. So I Googled it, and I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like top.
Yeah.
And then you described several other symptoms, and I was like, oh man, he's got COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And so here we are.
Terrible. I think I said no to one thing on their list that we're reading off.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
Hey, I got one. It says no.
Yeah.
And I know your wife, Piper, I mean, she wasn't even allowed to stay with you.
No, literally, like we both came in, and like good thing is they didn't have like a line, like too bad of a line at the check-in. So I like got there, got right in, and started talking to them, and then as soon as I said I was throwing up, they're like, yeah, you won't be able to stay. You can just go now.
Wow.
They're like, no, there's no way.
That's so scary.
Mhm.
Because at that point, you're all alone.
Literally,
Yeah.
they like annex you. They put you in a different spot of the hospital, and I was literally by myself. There was no other even COVID patients over there. I was the only one at that time.
Like, I gotta say, like, I no disrespect to any of our men and women who are in the medical profession or anything like that, but I think that complete isolation and tearing, pulling somebody away from their support group, I find so dangerous. And it's scary for me. I mean, I that's just my feelings. It's not a thus saith the Lord moment. That's how I feel. I think in moments where you're fighting a sickness that you don't know what's going to happen, you need that support group to help push you, rather than being stuck in an isolated corner.
Exactly.
Of, okay, if you don't die, we'll be back.
Right?
Because
that was it. And for me, that could have been it. I waited there for 5 hours.
That's the scary part too for you.
Yeah.
Because of what happened and what it turned out to be. It could have been moments.
Yeah.
So just to give you an update of where we're at. So he goes in, we're thinking it's COVID. He even messaged me. They think this is a really bad case of COVID. And I'm going, oh no. Because we see the church side of aspect of it, because I have to look through that lens as well, where, I mean, one, I'm worried for you as a friend and as one of my pastors on staff with me, but and really family to us here at Journey Fam. But then I'm looking at the pastor sense going, okay, we now have an active COVID case in our church that is staff member. How do we, I'm starting to look at all the ramifications for that. Okay, how are we going to help support you and help Piper and Scott? And, there's so many moving parts. And so we were playing that, and you said, okay, they're testing me. Okay, great. The test comes back negative. So thank the Lord for everybody on that. So it comes back negative. And even when you text me, I find this part funny. I shared with it the other night at youth, even when you had me speak. Thank you, by the way. I enjoyed that. But before you text your next thing, I was texting awesome, as in awesome it's not COVID. But the next comment was, they think it's diabetes. And so that came up on my text, and then I shot back the text, awesome. And the timing was terrible bad.
It looked like
I was not celebrating that.
I was pretty sure you meant the COVID.
I meant the COVID, just to be clear.
But I wasn't sure for a second. I'm like,
no, I totally meant.
I mean,
I'm glad you didn't have COVID. But I was not celebrating you had diabetes.
Yeah.
Now, the first thing that you talked to me about was that you even said when we were on the phone, you said, I'm pretty sure it's just probably type 2. The type 2 diabetes. Yeah, and here's the thing. So high levels of a diabetic reading is, I believe, in the 300s.
Yeah.
For a high level, and that's like scary high. Like, hey, that's
yes and no.
You need to watch this. You're not. Something's not.
You need to get it down.
Right.
Something's not working. It's
out.
not like you need to go to the hospital yet.
No.
3, but like.
But something's
you need
off.
to get it down.
Yeah, your levels are getting too high. Yours were over 6.
Yeah, they were like 623.
So 623. So double of
really high.
This is high. You need to pay attention. Now it's doubled of.
That's most people go into a coma.
Exactly.
Like your blood's like.
And that's where I'm so thankful for God's hand of protection on you. My wife and I, so Tanya and I were talking that during this time. I mean, you drive for Uber, you do DoorDash.
Yeah, I do all that.
All this stuff.
Oh
man,
I'm
so glad God's hand of protection. And one, thank you for protecting anybody else in that car. But two, I mean, if you could have passed out in the car, dude, you could have went to sleep and not woke up. And that's so scary at 22 or 20 years old. You know, of man, from something you didn't even know. And so your levels are over 600. Type 2 diabetes, and type 2 diabetes, and this is no disrespect to anybody who has type 2 diabetes, is something that, you know, most time doctors tell you, okay, there's things you can do to help get rid of it. My dad had type 2. And so I feel I can speak to this a little bit because the doctor told him, you lose weight, you'll probably get rid of it. And it was one of those things that it helped him, and he lost a ton of weight. But that wasn't the case for you.
Yeah, no.
So tell me what happened.
So basically, well, the thought process was, so they realized it wasn't a fluke, because that's what they originally, they kind of got me back and they were like, okay, your symptoms and stuff like that is either flu or is COVID. They weren't, after they kind of got me back and got to examine me a little better and they did some chest x-rays and stuff like that.
Your symptoms stopped.
And so some of my symptoms started stopping when they got the IV in me and started doing some stuff like that. They were like, okay, we feel like this is probably just a flu, so we're probably getting some fluids in you, we're going to get you know, an anti-nausea or whatever.
Thank you.
Thank the Lord. We're going to send you home. And that was kind of the thought process. And then I like sit there for 2 hours. I'm like still waiting the COVID test at this point in time.
Yes.
And that's when they come back and they're like, okay, so it's not a flu.
You're pregnant,
right?
That's how we found out that Tanya was pregnant.
Really?
She went to the doctor thinking it was the flu.
Oh, wow.
And then the doctor said,
wow.
So you're pregnant. And she went,
Nice.
oh,
Okay.
We're not pregnant right now. This was a former pregnancy. Just to clarify for anybody who watches this.
Yes. Yeah, I wasn't pregnant.
Thank God.
Thank the Lord. That would have been weird.
You would have been rich.
Right? But literally, he just comes in and he's like, so it's not a flu. You're having ketoacidosis. And I'm like, I'm having what? I'm like, I don't know what that is.
I didn't even, when you told me that, you said ketoacidosis, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Keto, like.
You're on a diet?
Like, what have you been eating?
Right?
And so I was on, I had called a very close friend of ours who happened to be over at my parents' house, and we were talking. I said, hey, you need to be praying for Pastor Gregory. I called my parents, so just be praying for him. And I said, they found out what's wrong. Not 100% what it is, because when you told me, I had to Google it. And I said, but it doesn't sound good. they said ketoacidosis, and Barb, who was the lady I called Barb, and my mom and my dad all went, oh, that's diabetes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. They just told me keto. They didn't tell me the diabetes at first. That was the funny thing. They just said you're on ketoacidosis, and I'm like, okay. And they didn't really explain it very well to me. They just said, so we're gonna start giving you insulin and stuff like that. So then, like, the kind of trigger hit my brain, and I was like, do I have diabetes?
Right.
Because for me, like with my family and everything like that, like type 2 runs in my family. So I'm like, it was more a matter
a lot for a lot of
yeah.
families.
For me, it was more like it's when, it's not
If. Yeah.
And I was gonna feel really bad because I mean, type 2, it would have felt to me like I caused it. Like I let myself go too far or whatever.
I could have prevented this.
I could have prevented me getting it at least
one more
this
workout
young,
and I would have been okay.
right?
Should have took the stairs.
Right?
Took the stairs.
Would have been fine. When they come back and they're like, after they tell me your COVID test came back negative, we're gonna keep you overnight, and we think you have type 1 diabetes. I go, what? So explain to me why you think that and what that is, because I don't understand. And so basically, they had to explain. Okay, so basically, one, ketoacidosis is insane. But the reason why that happens is because your body is literally your pancreas just doesn't work.
It just says I quit.
It just quit, and it can work, but at very
Small
levels, not enough to
keep your body regulated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so telling me they're like, okay, pancreas doesn't work. It's not going to work. You're going to have to take insulin. That's why you're on insulin. He's like, it's going to be a little while to get you back to normal, and then when you're going to go home, you're going to have to inject insulin and do stuff like that. I'm like, that doesn't sound fun. I'm poking myself. I don't have huge problems with needles when other people do it.
Right.
I always thought I'd have an issue with me doing it, which I've done fairly good.
I feel safer doing it.
Yeah.
I would rather, if I'm at a doctor, I would rather them let me do it.
Really?
Than them do it. Because I've watched some, okay, if you just
Well,
hold still, I'm not the one moving. That's you. Or they go to draw your blood and you see the lady who's like, okay,
yeah.
if you just hold still, you're like, oh
no,
this is not gonna end.
Mm-hmm.
I had one guy who did it. This dude, I've had blood drawn so many times for different types of things, and I remember setting my arm on the table. I was like, and my question always is, "You any good?" Because I want to know what I'm in for.
Yeah.
Because I've had some that, literally, I had a lady who her hand shook like this as she's getting ready to draw my blood, and I'm going, it's gonna be a bad day. Because I got stuck 3 or 4 times before she actually stuck me. It was like poke, 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 poke. Okay. And so this guy, I asked him, I said, "You any good?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, I can do this with my eyes closed." I'm like,
okay, don't. But
I'm like, cool. Okay. And he goes, watch. Closes his eyes, puts his hand on my thing, one shot. Wow. I'm like, bro, hey, that was clean. And he goes, yeah. He goes, I was a doctor. I worked on a Navy ship.
Oh, okay.
He goes, and we'd be out on the ocean, and I'd have to stick somebody, and the boat would be rocking, lights would go out. He says, "You just get used to it." I was like, okay. It was a great thing.
Awesome.
I've never seen nobody close their eyes before. I was like, he's gonna stab me in the leg. I'm gonna be sitting there, So now you gotta poke your thumb all the time, or poke your fingers all the time, draw your blood, but also take insulin.
Yeah, which isn't it's not the end of the world.
Not the end of the world, but what was your initial reaction? Because that's a diagnosis that you were not prepared for.
Yeah, no, I went in thinking it was a flu, and then thinking it was COVID. I would say, because there was always kind of a part of me that knew I had to be prepared for diabetes whenever. So it didn't shake me as much as I thought it was going to. At first it sucked, just because literally, I get diagnosed with this. I've been by myself, literally the doctors and stuff have to almost hazmat suit to come see me because I was still in quote unquote danger of COVID.
Right.
For hours. The whole day. I was there from 9, and this diagnosis came at 6 or 7.
Yeah, 6 or 7.
And that entire time, I basically had been isolated. And so getting that diagnosis, at first, it kind of didn't settle in, and then they all left, and I was like it was just me, myself, and I.
Yeah. Well, the way I look at it, that's you and Jesus time.
Yeah.
When you get a diagnosis like that, a lot of people, that's something that can shake their faith really quick, and it'll either shake you to your knees, or it'll shake you in the sense of you will become hardened. And I think we as pastors, what we've learned is when it shakes you to your knees, it's the best way, because like the Bible says, in where Paul says, where we are weak, he is strong. And these bodies we know are just temporary homes.
Yeah.
We need to take care of them as best we can. I try to treat my body as well as I can, and when I say treat it well, I mean I treat it with treats, with like cake and pie, and so I don't do as good as I should. In fact, another shout out to Barb if she watches this. Barb is the one who's always on me.
Oh yeah.
Who is like, okay, you need to drink more water. Barb's been phenomenal, a phenomenal voice in my life, where she's almost like a second mom to me. You need to drink more water. You need to. No, Brian. No one needs 2 Big Macs. I like food, and so she's the one who's like, you need to knock it off. You need to clean stuff up. But for you, at 20 years old, you get a diagnosis that now something that, unless God heals it, is a diagnosis for the rest of your life. Yeah. And it's. We know there's worse things.
Yeah, and there's things I can do to make it better.
Right.
Like if I lose weight and stuff like that, my body will need less. Right. But it will still almost always need some.
And I've had many friends who are type 1 diabetics who have been that. I had one of my good friends growing up all through school. His name's Kenny. He was diabetic. One of my good friends growing up all through high school even was diabetic. Still is diabetic. But always did real well. And the thing is it's those life change moments that for you, you can really be an inspiration as a youth pastor, where there's some students who right now especially, they're going through lives, they're feeling isolated like you did. Oh yeah. They're feeling alone. And this isn't because they're at a hospital, this is because of where we're at in society, the times we're in with this whole COVID thing. They're feeling isolated, they're feeling alone. And you are a great communicator to be able to speak into that, to tell them, which he's doing a great job as our youth pastor. And so we're seeing lives changed in our youth ministry here with Sojourn Youth. And but I wanted people to hear kind of what you walked through, how faithful God's been in this the whole time, and having his hand on you. So any last things you would like to say to the people?
Yeah, no, it was crazy. It was fun.
It was fun?
It was fun. Like, literally, I only say it was fun because I know...
I'm like, how is that fun? I would have been miserable.
I only say it's fun because I know what God can do with it.
There you go.
And so I will say, like, as soon as I got the diagnosis and they all left, I cried for like an hour. And, I called my mom, I called my wife, and we're talking with them and stuff like that. And kind of at the end of that, we talked and everything, and they're both very comforting, and they're very good about, like, not freaking out in front of me. At least.
Yes. In front of you.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And so after those conversations, it was good. I was kind of realizing, I'm like, okay, well, at least I'm going to get out of here. Yep. This isn't my deathbed.
Nope.
I'm going to get to leave, and God can do a lot with this.
That's right.
But definitely, it's isolation. Yeah. It was complete isolation. My wife only got to come visit me for like 3 or 4 hours while I was there for like 3 days. Yeah. And they shut down just Monday visitors to the hospital. So literally quite like,
right after
maybe in some other wards, but definitely in the ICUs and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's no one.
There's no one.
No one. Even as pastors, it's almost impossible to get in there. We've had people who've gone and even that. Sorry, no visitors. So,
yeah. They're stopping you at the door now.
Yeah. So well, we're so thankful again for God's hand of protection, but also we are thankful it wasn't COVID.
Yes.
But with this, almost a public service announcement. If somebody you know is going through something, don't hesitate to reach out for people. We need to be there for each other and love on people. We want to be hands extended to love and show Christ through that. And so you never know what your testimony might do to help show somebody Christ today. So we love you. We will see you soon. Next Thursday is Thanksgiving. We will not be having, unless we do remotely, a Thanksgiving special,
that.
like
That could be fun.
whenever you come to my house.
Yeah, we could do
you
that.
know, or
We
you
do a
know,
big like family table.
well, I can't say come to my house because obviously
Yes.
COVID. But if you know, if you attend the funeral for our turkey, just saying, I might need you to do the eulogy for the turkey at our, because our pet turkey has passed.
Yes.
We'll be holding services next Thursday. Pastor Gregory might be giving the eulogy.
I
So
got it.
with that, happy Thanksgiving. If you don't have a home church, come see us at Journey, 10:30 Sunday mornings. We love you. Have a good day.